I'm joined now by Dr. Juliet Ehimuan to examine some of the top stories in greater depth. Great to have you on the show, Dr. Juliet.
Great to be here.
So we're going to start with Tesla saying, or India actually saying it's going to, no, it's Tesla saying it's going to double imports from India.
Yeah.
Those two, it's like this new romance between those countries in terms of trade, manufacturing, and supply chains.
Yes.
Great move for India. India seems to now be getting a lot of the shift in interest away from China as a supply hub. What do you make of it?
Yeah, so I think there are three things to unpack here. The first is just Tesla making a decision as a business to increase its imports from India, manufacture some parts of its vehicle from India. You know, every organization is constantly looking at how to maintain competitive advantage, how to access new markets, how to reduce your cost of production, etc. And India ticks a lot of those boxes. It has the largest population in the world right now. It overtook China at the middle of this year by 3 million people. So it's over 1.4 billion people. And of course, you know, that's access to labor and an enabling environment in many ways. And if you look at the market for electronic vehicles, right? China actually has the largest market for electronic vehicles. Last year, 5.9 million units were sold in China, representing 59% of all the electronic vehicles
around
sold
the world.
Yes. Yeah. In comparison, in the US, 800,000 were sold. So you can see the difference, 5.9 million versus 800,000. So you can see that as a somewhat saturated market.
Yes.
So it's understandable as well for that reason that Tesla would be looking at India, which is, you know, where there is lower penetration and of course, you know.
And is it more competitive from a manufacturing perspective in terms of labor? So
I would say both markets, you know, they're both emerging markets. You do have access to labor at low cost, but India has been very deliberate about creating financial and other incentives.
Right.
The government has been deliberate about positioning India as a world-class destination for manufacturing. There's a Make in India initiative that the government has been putting forward. And so, you know, more and more, and we talked about this the last time I was here, the fact that more and more global giants are favoring India as an alternative to China as they diversify away from China. We know that, you know, Google announced that parts of its Pixel 8 phone would be manufactured out of China. When iPhone, the latest version of iPhone had some of its parts made in India. And also Samsung has its largest mobile factory in India. So it just really speaks to the importance of deliberate effort, right, and reputational credit, which the government has really been driving. And the third lesson there as well, I think for us, you know, there's people say that this is Africa's decade. I believe it can be Africa's decade. In fact, it can be Nigeria's decade if we do the right things.
Right.
The world is shifting. Companies are looking at new markets, looking at reducing costs, and there are different shocks coming into the system from, you know, the wars and crises, etc. If we can position ourselves as the next frontier in a very deliberate way, then we can really be on the positive receiving end of all these changes that are happening. And it would be great to see that happen.
Yeah, indeed. Looking forward to seeing how this kind of boosts competition for these manufacturing hubs across many emerging and frontier markets. Great stuff. Now, Australia, the cargo world in Australia is still reeling, if you like, from the effects of the cybersecurity threat and attack that happened that led to a backlog of 50,000 container ships, actually. I mean, this was quite a monumental attack. Seemed to have been deliberately targeted at a very important operation in that axis, geographically. What does this say about the growing threat of cybersecurity, cyber threats, rather, ransomware attacks around the world?
Yes, absolutely. So cyber threats are unfortunate, but they're real. We've seen an increase in cyber crimes from distributed denial of service to malicious insider attacks to malware and, you know, ransomware. And you know, last year the number of malware attacks added up to 5.5 billion.
In terms of lost value.
Globally.
Yeah.
No, in terms of attacks.
On attacks.
Attempts at
5
system.
attempts.
Yes,
The
yes.
actual attacks,
Yes.
not any financial losses.
No.
From the
Now we'll
attacks.
come to the financial losses.
Yeah.
But just the attacks, 5.5 billion.
Oh, wow.
Now, in terms of losses due to cyber crime, that's in 2021, that was estimated at $6 trillion and projected to get to $10 trillion by 2025.
Incredible. Right.
And to unpack that number, interestingly, if that was a country, it would make it the third largest economy in the world, next to the US and China.
Incredible.
But to unpack those numbers, when you have these attacks, beyond the direct costs, there are other hidden costs as well. So, from loss of intellectual property, the cost of just disruption to business, getting rid of the hacked systems or replacing them, customer loss, reputational damages, a drop in share price. These are all, loss of money. In some cases, you have fraud and embezzlement as part of these hacks. So, it's actually very expensive to have these. And ransomware is now by far the fastest growing cyber attack. And this is targeting organizations that have volumes of data that are critical.
And this is usually holding your system hostage until you pay some money
Yes.
or make some sort of move. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of organizations would pay because you really can't afford
Especially
for your
if there's
data
really
to
sensitive data.
Exactly.
Are organizations actually reporting these attacks?
What's been happening, actually, some governments have mandated for organizations to report because, there is reputational credit, you have drop in share price. There are implications when you report that you've been hacked and you've been attacked, your data has been compromised. That creates a loss in customer confidence, a loss in shareholder confidence.
And people may interpret it as a governance issue.
As a governance issue,
Yeah.
exactly, And so you see a drop in share price and a lot of fallouts. And so for that reason, a lot of organizations would just quietly pay, right, to recover their data and sanitize their systems and not report it. And which is why it's an accelerating and very lucrative business right now.
But as with kidnapping, ransomware, the more you pay, it seems to kind of
you're
incentivize
feeding that industry.
You're feeding that monster.
Exactly. But the lesson there as well, obviously, technology is here to stay, right? We can't say because of cybersecurity, we're going to do things differently. We're talking about artificial intelligence, blockchain, the digital economy. The lesson is just the fact that we need to take cybersecurity seriously. Just like in the physical world, you will always lock your doors. You will put burglar proofs and all those kinds of things. We need to protect our systems as well. We need to make sure that our IT governance is intact. We need to ensure that we're doing cyber maturity assessments, not waiting for an attack before you react, but to be proactive in doing vulnerability assessments to just make sure that your systems are resilient, your access controls and protocols are solid, they're how they should be. Your employees are trained on best practices. Your suppliers as well, because sometimes they're the weak link, right?
Absolutely.
Your vendors, suppliers as well need to be trained, and you need to make sure that they have minimum security standards, and just really make sure that we're taking IT audits and cyber security audits
and it's interesting
seriously.
you mentioned that because more and more company boards are insisting on having cybersecurity experts,
Absolutely.
IT experts on their boards.
Yes.
But also the cost of investing in these technologies that protect your systems, it's probably worth the investment compared to the potential financial loss you would get, as you mentioned. Those numbers are
it has
incredible.
To be part of, when you're thinking about your costs, it has to be an integral part of the investment.
Indeed, very interesting. Now, Nepal is banning China's TikTok. Many other countries have made various moves about TikTok, but the Nepalese government is not just citing security concerns. It says it's citing social, I've forgotten the word, but a really interesting
Social
term.
harmony.
Social harmony is under threat in Nepal, and can you just help us unpack that a bit?
Yes, so social platforms are very powerful. They do offer a lot of benefits, connecting people, creators on the platforms are able to broadcast themselves and also attract foreign investment, monetize their presence on those platforms, and they're a key part of the digital economy. However, it's important that there is balance and that these platforms that are meant to empower, right, and provide opportunity and not then used maliciously, right, on the other side. And, TikTok has been growing very fast. In 9 months, it got 100 million users. It took the internet 7 years to get that number.
Wow. Yeah.
So the pace of change has been accelerating, and it's very popular among young people. As you rightly said, a few countries have raised issues around TikTok. India banned TikTok in 2020 because there was a concern that consumer data on Indian users was being made available to the Chinese government. The U.S. has also implemented some controls. So, U.S. government officials are banned from downloading TikTok on their phones. The reasons cited have to do with security. The fact that there's a perception that TikTok has the ears of the Chinese government, and that the customer data can be targeted, right, for disinformation, for to influence elections and other practices as well. In the case of Nepal, which is it's a neighbor to China, so it's interesting actually that they're making this bold move. It's a small country, about 30 million people, 2.2 million TikTok users, but they're not coming at it from a security perspective. It's, like you said, social harmony, because there's been abusive content, disruptive content on TikTok that they feel is not good for society, and that's the reason that they're putting forward. And I think it's something that is internally within TikTok. These are things that should be taken really seriously. Speaking as someone who's been a part of leading a social platform like YouTube, when I was leading Google in West Africa, obviously YouTube is our platform, and there's a lot of work behind the scenes around just ensuring that you are filtering content, you're making sure that you are moderating and ensuring that you only have content that is aligned with the values of the platform, right? And even with your protocols and algorithms, sometimes some things get through, but you need to make sure that you have a robust system and an efficient system to be able to address those issues when they pop up, so that you don't compromise the integrity of the platform. And so there's that responsibility on the platform provider.
Yes, and of course, the safeguarding the rights of vulnerable groups like children and young people, of course.
Absolutely.
We're almost running out of time, but this story on Malawi hiking electricity tariffs, fuel prices due to the devaluation of the currency, this seems to be a disease that's spreading across Africa. The currency devaluation, reserves are tanking, high levels of debt, and Malawi's kwacha devalued. I mean, it's a real challenge. Just brief comment on this.
Yes, so it's not surprising, and the economy has struggled for a while now. It's a poor country, and when you have forex situations, everything that is dependent on imports, right, is likely to be affected. So the electricity industry, a lot of, when you think about from generation to transmission and distribution, there's a lot of dependence on foreign equipment. Even for generation, 12% of electricity generation in Malawi is from fossil fuels, right? And that's, direct foreign exchange. And so you can see the ripple effect of that dependence on foreign exchange. It just speaks to the importance of diversifying the economy and localization, and also looking at alternative sources of fuel.
Absolutely.
Wind, solar, water,
renewable
right?
Energy,
these are all
energy,
local, renewable energy. Besides the sustainable benefits, just even the fact that they are healthier and help you to manage the shocks from the global space.
Tough times for Malawi. The IMF has just agreed a new loan package of $107 million because it's also dealing from the effects of climate change and adverse weather conditions. So hopefully they sail through this really difficult period. Well, we have to go. Thank you so much for being on the show. As always, Dr. Juliet Ehimuan, we value your insights. Thank you.